Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Seashore Comfort Solutions podcast. We're coming to you from the Streamography Studios out here in Gloucester, Massachusetts. Spring has almost sprung, and we're getting ready to talk about a lot of the things that you guys should be looking into in the next couple of months coming up. We're going to talk about spring maintenance, this, that, the other thing. I'm here today again with my buddy Andrew. He's the head cheese here at Streamography in Gloucester, so everyone make sure you reach out to him for any of your streaming needs.
The chief streamographer.
Is that what's on your business card?
That's what's on my business cards. I love when I can make up my own title.
Exactly.
It's great.
Yeah, I got to look at my card. I think you put president on mine.
Do you like HVAC scientist or something?
Well, HVAC superstar is like what I gave myself back in the day when we finally figured out that certain people are actually good at doing HVAC. We call them a superstar. So if we can find a guy that's a superstar, let me know because I'm hiring.
Yeah, always hiring.
Always hiring. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we were actually just spitballing a little bit, Ringles, and with the spring coming, like you just mentioned. I remember working with you quite a bit, and the maintenance side of it was so key. But I remember you kind of talking about how maintenance is important, maintenance is key, but it all starts with a good install.
Yeah, absolutely. You can have someone put in a machine incorrectly and then just deal with service calls for the rest of the life of the machine. If you have someone that puts it in properly in the first place, then they just have to come in every once in a while, clean it up, make sure everything's working properly, and walk away. I was telling a story about one of the customers that I had that it was a commercial client that had a very expensive system put in, and they didn't put it in correctly in the first place. So they were constantly chasing problems year after year after year, and they were paying this contractor to chase these problems that they in fact caused themselves. And then over time, they started losing significant components, $10,000 compressors here and there, and they weren't covering them under warranty because it was the same problem, and they hadn't fixed what the problem was. And the factory knew that something was wrong with the way that the install was done. And then they just said, okay, you know what, we're changing out this system. We put the system in, the new system, we put it in properly. We haven't heard back from them since, and we just do good maintenance on it every 3 to 6 months, depending on what customer it is. But it really does. It's like if you have people that are putting the stuff in properly, if they were trained in the arts of HVAC, and this is this is something that I've been doing forever. It's like I take a lot of pride in the way that we do stuff. So. It's hard for me to talk bad about any other HVAC guys because I'm an HVAC guy through and through. But if you're not doing it correctly, what are you doing? You're not doing your job if you're just going there, throwing a filter at it, throw a little coil cleaner on it, and then drive away. Yeah. A lot of the times when you see those technicians that do maintenances in that way, you notice they get a service call on that same job within sometimes days of their last visit. And then, the customer's complaining about, why would I have to pay for this if you guys just did a maintenance on it and didn't notice it,
Yeah.
So I like to go through fine-tooth comb. Yeah. There's a lot of steps. There's a lot of basic stuff as far as, make sure you change filters, clean coils. Wash the condenser coil outside, wash the evaporator coil inside. Flush the evaporator pan. There's a condensate pan in the air handler that collects all the condensate. Over the wintertime, all that condensate had dried up. Any of the dirt stuff that was floating through the air that's stuck into that water, that's stuck to the coil, is going to get sediment stuck in the pan. And then once it gets wet again, it's going to instantly peel up, block the drain, maybe cause a water leak, maybe cause a ton of damage. So you want to make sure that the stuff is all clean.
And so this goes into the difference of because I hear it all the time and I see it all the time, HVAC inspections versus an HVAC maintenance.
Yeah, it's kind of a trick that a lot of companies use just to get a technician in your door, and they use their technicians as salesmen. They don't really use their technicians as technicians. Um, so they'll say, okay, yeah, we're gonna come do an spring HVAC inspection, $99, or some of them you see $39, $49, whatever it is, it's cheap. The guy gets into the house and he says, oh, yep. Everything looks like you need a maintenance. It looks like you need a condenser coil cleaning. It looks like you need this. All the things that are included in a regular maintenance. But now you're paying the $99 visit fee and then the additional maintenance fees to clean coils, flush, and all this other stuff. So it ends up costing you a lot more money at the end of the day. We come in and we say, we're going to do a maintenance. Straight up. We're going to change filters, clean coils, flush drains, check the refrigerant charge, clean all the leaves and everything out of the bottom of the condensing unit that have gathered over the fall and the winter of last year, because that'll just cause it to rust. We just want to make these machines run like they're supposed to. I don't want to have service calls. That's my big thing. I'll do maintenance all day. I don't want to hear service calls.
Right.
I want my machines to run correctly.
Yeah. And it goes back to, you were using the analogy of a car, as far as like why maintenance is so important. Talk to us about why maintenance is so important.
Yeah, there's, number one is so your machine runs as efficient as possible. If you have all these dirty components and they're not moving air properly, so it's not going to be running as efficiently as possible. Number two is it's, a lot of end users don't realize it because they don't read the manuals that they're given, but it's actually a requirement by the manufacturer to perform maintenance on a regular basis with a certified or licensed technician in order to maintain their warranty. So like I was saying with the car analogy is that, if you don't change your oil for 2 or 3 years and all of a sudden your engine blows, you can't go to your manufacturer and say, I need a new engine for free, because you didn't take care of it. It's almost like you should be punished for not doing the things properly. But if you just do good maintenance on it and we get to, put our gauges on, make sure the refrigerant charge is correct. If, you might lose a little bit of refrigerant here and there when you take your gauges off, put them on and everything. So you want to check that charge every once in a while and make sure it's correct, because the more correct the refrigerant charge is, the more efficiently the machine runs. But yeah, warranty stuff is huge. Just like I was saying with that commercial client, the manufacturer wouldn't warranty compressors anymore after they blew up 2 of them, because they knew that they weren't doing something right.
And it goes back to let's say using the car analogy, right? Let's run with that for a little bit. If you brought your car to a mechanic that is not certified, that is not licensed, that doesn't document properly, I don't believe that would fly with the warranty. I think some would actually require proper documentation, proper licensing, proper certification.
Oh yeah, it says it right in the manual. A certified or licensed, HVAC technician has to perform a maintenance. It needs to be documented. You have to have an invoice to prove it. If they, God forbid, they came back and said, hey, you got to prove that you've done maintenance on this stuff.
Exactly.
Have the documentation to back it up. If you don't have it, I can't promise anything. That's a big thing. So.
Like, yeah, you might have a neighbor who, let's even say he's a qualified HVAC technician, but if he's not a certified company, like with Mitsubishi, you're a diamond dealer.
We're a diamond contract, yeah.
So like, a diamond contractor. Mitsubishi will see your Seashore Comfort Solutions name and they'll say, oh, okay, we know them. We know this is legit.
Yep.
Versus,
they've registered all their equipment. Everything is, everything's been fine. They haven't had a ton of warranty claims.
Yeah.
So we usually don't have any issues. Knock on wood, we've maybe had 2 issues of even trying to get warranty claims. We don't have a lot of failures. That's the big thing is that we don't really have to. And a few of them are mostly, a couple of them are actually equipment that we didn't install. So it was just, customers called us from, either Googling or whatever, and, and they said, okay, you guys do Mitsubishis, come check it out. We found that they had a power board was bad on this last one Dave was just at. Got it under warranty, no questions asked. They just handed it right over. Went back, put the board in, checked the refrigerant charge, found that it was low. That's what caused the board to fry in the first place. Got everything taken care of now, and I don't expect to hear back.
So talk to us about timing. So we're in, we're just entering, let's say, April, right? So it's early April, and, hot weather doesn't really kick in till, let's say, June. When is a good time to really start doing maintenances for AC?
Yeah, I'm still on board with, end of April, early May. Um, I try to gauge it off of, I got married on May 4th, so that was like 70 degrees the day I got married, so I got to,
I remember that.
I pay attention to temperature, it's my
Yeah.
thing. But I kind of gauge it as because the day before it was cold and rainy. It was probably like 50s or something like that, so I was like nervous.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that it was just turning into the peak of a glimpse of summer right at the beginning of May. So I try to gauge it on last week of April, first couple weeks of May. It'd be good to get in. That way we can actually check the refrigerant charge. Refrigerant charge is nice to check, between 65, 75 degrees. That's like my favorite as far as tuning. Or if it's 100 degrees out, I love tuning them on a 100-degree day. But I'd rather not be doing maintenance on a 100-degree day.
Right. Well, because that there's going to be
There's
someone
gonna be service
that
calls.
just turned on their AC for the first time,
Exactly.
had no idea if it'll turn on or not.
Yeah.
But they're desperate at that point.
Especially up
right?
here. A
Like,
lot of our clients are on their way back up from Florida right now. There's a lot. We have a vault full of a little safe full of keys, so we can go in and out of these people's houses to get their HVAC stuff ready to go before they get up here.
Yeah.
So that's I try to get it done before everyone starts making their way up.
Right. So, of course, we all know that when a professional HVAC technician comes in, they're going to do things that the regular homeowner wouldn't even think about, and they shouldn't think about. That's not their job. But there are things that homeowners can do just to help their cause.
Definitely.
What are the things a homeowner can do that can help the cause with their HVAC system?
Yeah, there are. There's a number of things. I'd say probably a solid 3 or 4 things they could probably do. Number one is to check your filter and change it as often as you feel it's needed. I try to gauge it by I try to teach a customer to gauge it. Give it a month. After a month, if the filter looks dirty, it's time to change it. If it doesn't look dirty, give it another month. And then you can kind of gauge your frequency based on that. It's usually 2 or 3 months, depending on fan usage. If you got pets, if you got carpet in the house, this is all
Right.
stuff that you kind of have to gauge yourself. There are reminders that you can set up in your thermostats if you have smart thermostats. Most of them are already set up by default to it's like 800 hours of fan runtime. Then it'll pop up a event reminder saying, "Hey, you got to change your filter or schedule your maintenance," type of deal. But yeah, it's something like you kind of have to inspect it yourself. So take a peek at the filter. If it looks dirty, it's time to change it. If it's not, give it a month. Check it again. The other thing they can do is, if they're outside and they're doing some gardening or whatever, if the outdoor unit's not running, they can wash off the outdoor coil. Just give it a good rinse with the hose. Don't blast it diagonal so you're bending over fins and everything. Just a nice stream, and just clean it off. It's meant to be outside. It's in the rain and snow and stuff, so don't worry about getting stuff wet. But anything you can do to help, because that's airflow. If we can make more air go through that coil, then it's going to be more efficient.
Yeah, I remember when, I worked with you quite a bit helping with this stuff. Was the analogy of like the filter as like your mouth, right? If you're breathing, great, nothing's blocking your mouth. But all of a sudden,
Exactly.
can't breathe as easy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like if you're restricting the air, then you're not going to be moving as much air across that coil or that furnace or whatever. Whatever any heating or cooling machine. It's you always want free airflow. And it's based on what's called static pressure, what the air pressure is on the supply side, what the air pressure is on the return side or the suction side, the air coming back to the machine. And if either of those is either too high or too low, then it's not, the machine's not going to run as balanced as possible. So you want nice easy air coming back to the return so it can gobble up as much as it can, and then you want it to blow at a decent pressure. You don't want it to be super loud, so it's you want to make sure everything's sized correctly, but you also want to make sure you have good airflow through the machine, because the machine's not going to work correctly if it's not flowing properly.
Now, would you say, as far as equipment goes, Mitsubishi is one of the most, if not the most popular pieces of equipment you sell or install, I should say?
Yeah, I would say Mitsubishi is it's becoming more and more popular, I think, now, where there are a lot of these incentives out there for people to put in high efficiency heat pumps to displace using fossil fuels, natural gas, oil, stuff like that. But I'd say, yeah, Mitsubishi is probably one of the more popular brands, and for good reason. There's super reliability. You have a bunch of dealers around the whole country that are really pretty willing to work together as far as, I could go to any Mitsubishi dealer and buy equipment for the same price that I buy it from my sponsoring branch, from my diamond contractor. You have top-notch tech support. They answer the phone when you call. If they don't answer the phone, they take your number. They do call you back, and it's miraculous that they do call you back usually within a reasonable amount of time. It could be hours, but it's still reasonable compared to some other tech support guys. Parts availability. There's all these suppliers have plenty of parts sitting on the shelf, so there seems to be plenty of stock as far as replacement parts. But as I said, it's like I haven't had to deal with a ton of issues with machinery as far as failures, so I'm pretty confident in the way that they operate.
And they are smart, right? They're smart units, as in you can control them, or is that via the thermostat that you...
The Mitsubishi has it's called the Comfort app, the Mitsubishi Comfort app. It used to be called the Kumo app, or Kumo Cloud. But they literally just rolled it out last week of March, changing over from Kumo to Comfort. It's the same layout, same app and stuff. There might be a couple of different user functions and stuff, but you can control it from anywhere in the world. So, like I said, a lot of our customers down in Florida, they can pay attention to what temperature is in their house when they're not there over the winter. And they can call us out, if there is an issue, they can call us and we can go over and check on the house if they lost power or, any type of glitches. Even if the Wi-Fi goes out and they notice they have no connection to their Comfort app, then they'll call us and say, hey, I can't get on the Comfort app. I want to swing by the house and just take a peek.
Yeah. And I know sometimes you also have access to the same notifications. Do you get access as the service company? I know some apps provide that.
Yeah, through our portal we can actually see some alerts.
Yeah.
If the customer allows it, there's a function in the app itself, I believe, that they can allow us to see or allow us not to see, not allow us to see.
Yeah.
Which is fine too, but I think once the technician gets on site, they can go on through their own app and bring up that site just without having to log in or anything. They can just actually see all the Mitsubishi stuff without touching it.
Yeah. So let's say a customer was like, all right, like I want to do my maintenance. How far out are you booking right now? Like, are you doing like within a week, within a couple of weeks that you could start scheduling maintenance?
Yeah, at the moment, last week, March, April, we're still pretty open. We got some afternoons and stuff available, a couple of mornings available here and there. So you could get a same day appointment right now. But as we go a little bit deeper into April and May, that's when it's going to start to get a couple of weeks out, a few weeks out. When we have people calling in the last week of May and June to book a maintenance for a cooling system, it's we can get there, but it's not going to be until almost August. So it
Right,
depends.
exactly.
You want to kind of get your dog in the race as quick as you can, but you don't want to go too early
Right,
You
right,
know, so
right.
it's like that's where if you call ahead, if you call right now and say, hey, I want to schedule an appointment for first week of May, fantastic. We'll get you on the books
Perfect.
for first week of May, no problem. Um, but if you call first week of May, it's probably going to be third week of June, when we start to book for that.
Right.
So,
Right, 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 right.
um, yeah, earlier the better, but to at least get on the books. You know,
And one thing that I always remember that is something I just never thought of. But so we'd have some customers that would book their maintenance, technician goes out, does their thing, cleans a coil, and then what is it? Come June, when the foliage drops all the pollen.
yeah, the pollen drop, yeah, it's terrible. Especially on like a lot of our commercial buildings. We have one up in Danvers that's just all surrounded by pine. So once the pine pollen drops,
It's thick.
it's like chaos. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Or whatever I don't even know what it's when the yellow clouds of pollen fly.
Yeah.
And so for their spring, summer, early maintenance, we actually don't clean coils until middle of summer. So because we know they're going to get dirty. So it's like I'm not going to go there, clean them in spring, and then have to go back and clean them again because it's a day and a half project to clean all these coils on this rooftop.
And you're not doing the best service for the
it's not a
customer.
quick thing, right? Exactly, and then I'm
Like,
charging them again to go back.
right, right.
So and I've been dealing with these people for 20 years, so it's like it's relative. I just
They
say,
get
yep,
it.
they know they don't even know when we're coming or going anymore in some of these places.
Yeah, yeah.
We just go do our maintenance and. We never hear from them, so it's
Yeah, it's such a beautiful
always
thing,
good.
isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah. So
But let's say you're a residential customer, right? And they book a maintenance end of April, early May. You guys go out and you do your thing. If they see that pollen drop, middle of June, end of June, they themselves should do what you were saying earlier. Do that coil wash.
yeah, get out there and just give it a quick little rinse. You don't even have
That'll
to
make
go
such a big
crazy on it.
difference.
Huge difference. Yeah, huge difference. Especially, anytime that fan's running, it's drawing air through that coil. Anything that's flying through the air that's light is going to get pulled into the coil. You'll see those white puff balls that fly through the air. You'll see them plastered to to a condenser coil sometimes,
Yeah.
and you can just brush them off with a dust broom, basically. But then you still want to wash the coil because all the little stuff. That's what's getting stuck in
Plugged in
between there. Yeah, it's something like there's anywhere from 10 to 18 fins per inch. So every inch there's 18 fins. In between those little fins, you got to figure it's a 16th of an inch or smaller because if you get 18 in an inch, it's whatever.
Yeah,
Fractions.
yeah. Numbers.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean. It
Yeah,
breaks it
small.
down, so it's a tiny, tiny space.
Yeah.
So even dust and sand and stuff, it gets stuck in there, and then once that blocks it, that makes a smaller space for something else to get stuck in.
And that pollen's like a carpet. When it falls and it's thick, like, everyone's seen it. We could literally draw a picture on your
Oh, yeah.
car,
Yep.
and it's thick.
When you wash out a coil, you just see a
I
pool
remember
of
that. It's like a
yellow.
sludge of yellow that comes
it's
out.
it does. It turns into almost like hot mustard.
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like
yeah. I remember that when I used to
crazy.
help you guys with that.
Yeah, it's super mucky.
But so, okay, as far as so end of April, early May for actually scheduling your maintenance. But let's say I'm a homeowner, I hear this, and I want to be a little proactive. Can I go and just turn on, or maybe I'm still in heat mode right now? I don't know. It's kind of a weird season, but
Yeah.
when can they test their system? When's a good time? Is it still end of April, early May to
Yeah,
test?
if once you see it outside, an outdoor temperature like 65 degrees, you can kick it on. It's going to run at 40. If it's
Sure.
40 degrees, you can kick the thing on. It's going to run. It's not going to run totally perfect, but you'll still get cooling out of it, no question.
Yeah.
But they like to run, 60 degrees and above. I wouldn't want to put my gauges on and check a charge unless it was like 60 degrees or above.
Yeah. But just to turn it on to make sure it turns on even.
Yeah, flick it to cooling, kick it on, look outside, make sure the little fan kicks on outside. You hear the compressor kick on, maybe, depending on the machine that you have.
Right.
Make sure the indoor fan's running, all your vents are open, that type of stuff.
Exactly.
That's the first thing that we look at, and right in the spring when we come out is, make sure that the chunk of insulation's taken out of the return that the customer put in there because the cold air that falls down. If, in the wintertime, open up all your supply registers, make sure you get, everything wide open.
Yeah.
Um, And then you can kind of fine tune them based on preference after you get the machine running and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like moral of the story, a tale as old as time, is being proactive.
Yeah, proactive is number one. We have a lot of customers that wait until stuff breaks to call, because they have old machinery and they just want to kind of kick it down the road, but they don't, because it's a budget thing too. I get it. It's not a cheap investment. But if they take and do the math on how much money they've spent in service, and you can actually equate it to buying a new machine and actually saving some cash. But yeah, so that's a.
I know a whole other episode we're going to do at some point is on rebates and on tax credits. And at a certain point, because of the rebates and tax credits, doing a new system is arguably cheaper. Maybe a lot up front, but still with rebates and tax credits.
Absolutely, yeah, and with the rebates that they handing out, and they're always subject to change without notice, of course. But if you're looking to swap over to a high efficiency heat pump, the rebates are huge. It could be up to $10,000 depending on the machine you put in. If you do GO, I think it's up to like $15,000. The investment you make up front is a little more significant, but you're gonna get a rebate back. You're gonna save money. You're not gonna pay more money on gas. Your electric bill will go up because you're gonna use electricity. It's relative, but the idea is you're not gonna be burning a fossil fuel. You're gonna be saving a little bit on energy. You get heating and cooling out of it. It's kind of a triple win type of situation,
Yeah. I'm excited when we do that episode because Mrs. Ringles will be in here.
Yes.
Because she's the real.
She's the real singles. She knows everything.
That's her mad scientist.
Yeah, she knows everything about rebates. I'm not versed in rebates. I do everything outside.
You're the hardware guy.
Exactly. I'll touch everything outside the doors of the company. If I touch anything inside, it'll all go to hell.
But I also know how she loves being in front of cameras and microphones, and she will just be so excited.
I think once she gets on a roll, it's
she'll crush it.
We're gonna have to pull her out of here.
Yeah. Because she's so passionate about it, for sure.
Exactly. But she's chugging along with Julie in the office. They're booking maintenance calls as we speak. When I was leaving the office this morning, they were peppering customers, trying to get them on the books, because all of our customers that we've installed, we call ahead of time. Usually annually or every 6 months, on 6 months on the date from when we installed the machine, to come back and do maintenance. Because we don't want to hear from them. We want to call them and say, hey, we're coming to do your maintenance. Go do the maintenance, and we'll see you in the winter. Any other customers, any new customers that want to call and book maintenance, please call and book. And, because we're not going to call you because we don't know who you are. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you call us, want to book a maintenance, get on the books, and we'll take good care of you.
How far out will you go for a new customer for maintenance?
I'd go out to Burlington right now. That's where my mother lives. So that's pretty much the farthest I'd go as far as down 128.
Yeah.
We do a couple of customers out in Wilmington, Georgetown, Rowley, Ipswich, Topsfield. North Shore-ish. We prefer to stay like kind of inside 128 and on the North Shore.
Yeah.
So it's we don't want to have to drive 100 miles.
You're not going to the Cape.
Not going to the Cape. Not anymore. I used to do that for years. It was terrible.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Sweet. But okay, so moral of the story: be proactive. What you can do is change the filters, open returns, but also clean the coil. But get a licensed company like Seashore Comfort Solutions in there to protect your warranty, make sure the system runs efficiently, and that you don't have to worry about it for all summer. It'll just do its job.
Just let it run.
Beautiful.
That's all she wrote.
Mr. Ringles, another great episode, sir.
Andrew, I appreciate you as always.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.